those. I hope you've had a chance to take a look at those. We will share the information with you today so you can follow along with the documents. And since we only have an hour, I will just summarize the findings for you. There are a lot of percentages and statistics. So keep that in mind as we're going through, but it is a lot of good information. And secondly, with the NCI information, it is from the 17-18 fiscal year. So it's a little older information, but it's still good information that I think that will help us possibly with even strategic planning. And the NCI, like I said, National Core Indicators, it's data collected regarding regional center performance. We're lucky to have George Lewis with us today, who is actually in charge of this area's data collection when it comes to NCI. George, would you like to join in and mention something about NCI and the process?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I think I know just about all of you on here, so it's good to see you all virtually. So yeah, as Cindy was saying, the National Core Indicator, the report that you guys all have here is data that was collected back in 17-18 from the adult consumer in-person survey, I do believe. But in the document you have here, it gives a really good breakdown of all of the background information, the different sections that we cover in reference to interviewing folks either by mail or in person. But I wanted to talk briefly about where we're at today. So in light of the new coronavirus, COVID-19, we have went to doing these virtually. So this cycle, we are back to our in-person survey, which normally would have been done, face-to-face, but we are doing those virtually. And so with that being said, we are looking at bringing on a bunch of contracted interviewers and especially self-advocates or those that use services to conduct these interviews. The survey tool has not changed very much in that there are some, there's not a whole lot of new questions or anything that have been added. It's kind of the same as it's always been, but it covers the areas about community services, supports through the regional centers, supports through programs, et cetera. And we're really hoping that we will get a really good turnout. For your particular regional center, we're interviewing hopefully around 400 folks that get services through you guys. I recently requested information from Cindy about the adult consumer caseload. We will be sending out letters or information shortly to all of those folks, informing you all about what's coming up and how you can help spread the word. We do believe that the tool is very useful and that, again, it gives you guys information, although maybe a little later than you would like it, to be able to use in your strategic planning and also help our consumers become better self-advocates and get the services and supports that they need. Earlier, before we got started, I mentioned that hopefully in the near future, there will be a new system that's available to you all, professionals, and at some point the public, where you'd be able to see that data in real time. That is something that we are really striving for, because we realize that the sooner you can get information about what's happening within your communities, the quicker you can make changes and help serve the folks that we are working with. But so the current cycle, the IPS cycle, in-person survey cycle, again, will be conducted using Zoom. It's a healthcare model that will be HIPAA compliant. But the survey tool itself will be the same in that it will be administered using the survey tool that we have been using in the past. Does anybody have any questions?
Thanks, George. Appreciate it. As George had mentioned, this was a survey of adults, and the demographics of the survey from 17-18, the median age was 40 in our area, which included 58% male, 42% female. And of those, 56% were white, 25% Hispanic, 9% Black, and 5% Asian, which is very representative of our adult population at VMRC. Can we start scrolling up, Doug?
Yeah, just tell me which where you want me to start.
Yeah, go to the first slide, I think.
Keep going.
Yeah, keep going until we get to the charts.
Okay.
And you can find this entire report on the dashboard, the DDS dashboard. So you go to californiadds.org and look for VMRC's NCI information, and this entire report comes up. And then they add, every time a new report comes out, they add it to that dashboard. So you have the most up-to-date.
It's also on our website as number 20 under public disclosures.
Mm-hmm. And we also had it on our Facebook and in the health advisory as well. So first of all, you see 408 consumers were represented in the survey. And I think they try to interview about 400 during each cycle of this. We've talked about the ages. There were all residence types, but 64% lived independently or with a relative or in an FHA. And of those, 18% lived independently, 45% with family, and 28% in CCFs, community care facilities. There was also language was looked at, 86% English and 12% Spanish, which is very representative of VMRC. Statewide, it was 82% versus 15%. So we have a little bit higher English speaking clientele here. Of their preferred communications method, they looked at 75% spoken language, 21% gestures, which is about the same as most of the state average. And then mobility, 75% move themselves, and with aids or non-ambulatory, you're talking about 25%. And then we have fewer guardianships here than the statewide averages, 15% in the VMRC area versus 21% statewide. And of those conserved, 95% were by family, as opposed to 88% in the state of California. I always like to compare the two and see where we stand in California. So all the areas we're going to start looking at from the in-person surveys, they talked a lot about the living and working, all the choices, the activities, the relationships. The first one would be choice, and choosing where they live was the first. 70% of VMRC consumers say that they choose where they want to live, and that's opposed to 51% in California. So I think that looks great for our regional center. Choosing a paid job, 93% of our consumers versus 83% statewide. Choosing a day program, 66% of our clientele say that they had that choice, as opposed to 48% statewide. Daily schedule, it's about even at 82%. People being able to choose their free time, how they spend it, 90% of VMRC consumers feel that they're able to do that. When it comes to spending their own money, 87%. And if they want to change their service coordinator, they feel like that's a choice they can make. 92% of VMRC consumers feel like they can do that and feel comfortable with it. So that was choice. Then when you come to work, We were pretty low when it came to paid jobs in the community, with 8% versus 15% for the entire state. The type of jobs were very even and more for businesses that hire primarily those with disabilities in our catchment area. So that might be something we need to work on when you look at the fact that we're a little bit lower in those areas. The length of employment here is great at 77%. Paid time off, we're low in our area as well with that. That's only 33%. And that was versus 41% statewide. Then 4 common job industries. Higher in building and grounds, maintenance, and retail in our area. Less in food prep and manufacturing and packaging. So that's kind of where we stand as far as the different types of jobs. And then 51% of our clientele want a community job. We also were able to see that those who wanted to take classes and felt comfortable doing that was pretty high here at 33% versus 20% of the statewide. Those who have an employment goal in their IPP, which is something we worked on pretty hard, it showed that during the interviews, people felt like 33% of the people felt like that was a good thing. They had an employment objective in their IPP. So that's 33% for VMRC, 29% statewide.
Cindy, is there a certain slide that you want me to be on right now, or page?
It's on work.
I'm not sure where that is. Let me.
It's after this one. Yeah, keep going. There we go. There's work. They've got quite a bit of narrative, and then they have it broken down into 2. If you're looking at the report online, they have it broken down into 2 colored charts and then numerical charts as well. So just 2 different ways to look at the information. So when it comes to the working, we also notice attending day program. We had 56% of our population attending a day program. But like I said, 51% say they would enjoy working in the community at a job. We have a high volunteer rate of 35%. You can see here, as opposed to 27% for California. And then volunteers as part of day program or workshop, we're pretty high there too, with 76% versus 64%. So we'll move next to the community inclusion section. Yeah, keep going. And if you notice here, it's just giving that same information I did in a different format. So community inclusion, we were pretty much even or above in all those areas. The exception to that would be went out for entertainment. We were lower in that area, 62% versus 72% statewide, so 10% difference. So that might be an area that we need to take a look at. See, they're pretty much even with all the others, so you can keep going, Doug. When it comes to choosing religious service, that was 71% versus 78%. So we were a little lower there. Able to go out, if we keep going. (72% versus 82%. And then as often as they want to go out, 71% versus 82%. So we're a little lower in those areas, and might be something we need to take a look at. So you can keep going, Doug. Doug, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. Okay, the next section, relationships. We're higher in certain areas, maybe lower in others. Higher in has a best friend, 73% versus 67% there. Pretty even with has friends. Wants to help to meet or keep in contact with friends is very even. And has friends and can see them when they want, a little bit lower. We're at 73% versus 80% statewide. And some of the reasons it looked like lack of transportation is a reason. Rules and restrictions is another reason. And then if you look on down, you can see that 13% of our consumers say that they feel lonely and they would like to have more social activity in their life. And as you can see here, can go on a date or is married or living with a partner. We're a little bit lower than the statewide average there. So we can go on down to satisfaction. Okay. We're a little lower in satisfaction rates in areas of where they are living and working, but we're higher in satisfaction with services and supports. That is 90% versus 87%. But it looks like for the most part, people are pretty satisfied. When it comes to has a paid job in the community and likes their job, we're lower. We're lower in that area. But people who have a paid job and want to work somewhere else is only 30%. Probably a lot like the population in general. And then, as you can see here, attending a day program or workshop and wants to go more or less or the same amount of time. I thought that was interesting that at Valley Mountain, they want to spend more time in a day program than others. And the statewide was only 18%. So we're at 41%. That's probably the biggest gap of anything I saw in the entire survey. And then they were happy with the amount of time spent at the program, 45% of the time, as opposed to 68% statewide. So it looks like they feel good about the services and supports that are helping them live a good life. 90% seem to be satisfied. Then we'll go to service coordination. When it comes to having met or spoken with their case manager, I was surprised that we were a little bit lower than the statewide average at 91%. When it comes to the case manager, service coordinator asking the person what they want, That was at 80% versus 84%. So that looks like something we need to improve upon. Maybe getting our message across a little bit better. Able to contact their case manager when they want. 83% VMRC consumers said they could do that. That was versus 84% statewide. And then you see here the NCI, so that means nationwide, it's at 88%. So we're a little bit lower. And then it says staff come and leave when they're supposed to. 89% are satisfied with that, 93% statewide. So we're a little bit lower in that area as well. When it comes to taking part in their last IPP meeting, that's a good sign, 99%. I would hope 100% would be. But it's still higher than the NCI average, same as the state. And understanding what was talked about at the last IPP meeting, as you can see, VMRC was a little bit lower. Our consumers who were interviewed said that only 75% of them said that they understood what was talked about. So we need to make some inroads there. And then when it comes to the last IPP meeting, including people that they wanted to be there, 88% of our consumers said that was the case, which is lower than the statewide average or the NCI average. The person was able to choose services they get as part of the IPP. Very satisfied with that, 79%. We could still improve, but it's higher than the NCI or the, no, it's the same as the NCI, but it's higher than the statewide average there.
Cindy?
Yes.
Can we ask questions, or is there time at the end?
You know what, if you want to, since we don't have too many people on here, why not?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment with this slide and the previous slide is that, you know, as mentioned, it was 2017 and 18. And since then, we've pushed the person-centered planning.
Oh,
and
sure.
I think the numbers would be different by now. They would be higher, I believe. Because we're focusing more on what the consumer wants and you know, it's more, I feel.
No, I agree with you, and especially those who have really gone through the process with the self-determination.
So,
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's true. Yeah, and just keep in mind, this is from 17-18.
Right, right.
Okay. Doug, you want to go ahead and go up? Okay, the next section is access. VMRC is a little lower in getting to places that they need or want to go. We've got 85% as opposed to 91% for the statewide average and 93% for NCI. When it comes to places they want to do something outside of the home and able to get to those places, we're at 73% there. And I don't know if that might be because we do have some rural areas that may not have the transportation. I don't know how to glean some of that information from this without knowing exactly what the particulars are. And then staff having the right training to meet the person's needs. Looked like 89% agreed that that was the case. And then when you look at additional services needed, the interviewees ranked what they thought would be best. And it looked like it was ranked in order of education or training as #1 for VMRC. Now for nationwide, it looked like transportation and assistance finding or maintaining or changing jobs. But for VMRC, it was a little bit different. And I think if you go down, Doug, there are some additional services shown. Yeah, here we go. So this shows education and training is at 13% for VMRC. Dental care came in second there, but as we know, we've worked on that over the last few years. So we've got a dental coordinator in place now, which we didn't at that time. So things have changed in that area as well. The next thing on the list would be benefits and insurance information. That was something people felt like they needed. That was at 8%. Next in priority was day services, then healthcare coordination, social and relationship issues, which I find interesting that was a little lower when earlier it mentioned that people really wanted that. Residential support was next, and then assistance with jobs, which was different from the national average. And then environment adaptations, and then transportation was pretty low for us, which is a little bit different than the previous information where we were told people couldn't always get to where they wanted to go. And then assistance with housing next, and communication technology. And then I was surprised, but respite came in last as far as additional services needed, even though it's considered a service that people say we need additional options, but it did come in last out of all of these listed. So that's something to take into account. So if we go to the next section, it is health. So you look there, and having a primary care doctor or practitioner looks like most people are covered there. In poor health, only 3% of our population said that they were in poor health. When you look at some of the examinations that people have had, the physical exam, the dental, hearing, speech, those types of things, I think mammograms is even on here. It shows that we are pretty even with some of the other regional centers, like physical exam, 82% as opposed to 85%. When you get into dental exam, which we think has improved, we only had 72% at this point, 80% statewide. But like I said, we've improved in that area. But if you look at this, you still have, 20, 30% who aren't having any kind of exam, apparently. So keep going up. So the eye exam, 51% say they have that. So that's quite a few people who aren't having one. Hearing test in the past 5 years, only 37% of our population had that. So we're quite a bit lower than the statewide or national average. And then a Pap test in the past 3 years, we're a little bit lower in that area as well, with only 45%. And then a mammogram, we had 60% of our population say that they'd had one in the past 2 years for women 40 and older, as opposed to 69% statewide and 74% nationwide. And then as far as colorectal cancer screenings, 50 and older, we're pretty even on those. But when you come down to has never had a screening, we're lower than the statewide average on that, higher than nationwide. But then when you look at the flu vaccine, sounds like somebody's at my front door, but I'm not going to go. I don't know if you heard that doorbell. had a flu vaccine in the past year, we're really high on that, 71%, as opposed to 69%. But that's still, 29% who aren't getting one. So I don't know if that's something we need to work on, or if things have improved. And then, ever had a pneumonia vaccine? 25% of our population say yes, they have. So that's, again, 75% haven't had that. And these are adults we're talking about, median age of 40. Let's see what the next section is. Medication. So they talk mainly about those who are taking medication for psychotic disorders or behavioral challenges. And that's, a lot of this is geared toward that. 38% of our consumers report taking meds for those situations, and 74% of those who take the behavior meds also have a behavior plan. So that was noted in here as well. So I don't know if you have any questions about any of this. Okay, then we'll go to our next section, the wellness. And this was dealing mainly with some physical activity, exercising. 72% of our consumers say they do that. A little bit higher than statewide. And then there are other, looks like exercises for the muscles, 33% versus 31%. The body mass index, it shows here that we have healthy at 31%, and then we've got overweight 25% of those interviewed, obese 38%, and underweight 6%. So we have much more overweight and obese than healthy or underweight. And then using tobacco, 9% of our clientele say that they use tobacco versus 5% of California. So I think we can go on to the next area, which is rights and respects. And these areas that we reviewed were keys to their own home. Others let them know before entering. They can lock their bedroom. They know someone is coming in before they enter the bedroom, that type of thing. And very close. The areas reviewed were very close. As you can see, 90, 92, 84, 83%. I mean, so not that has a key to the home, only 41% have that, but it is comparable to the statewide average. And people who do not live in the home let the person know before entering, we're 90% there. So I think we can go on up a little bit. Has a place to be alone in the home, which is very important. 92% say that they do. 86% say they can be alone with friends or visitors. The rules about having friends or visitors at the home, looks like VMRC has more rules than enforced than the statewide average or the national average. So that might be something we need to take a look at. Others read mail or email without asking, and it looks like VMRC has higher percentage rates than others on that as well. Only 9% statewide. So we can keep going up. Can use the phone or internet when they want. 90% say they can. It looks as though people feel that they're being treated with respect by staff. When it comes to our self-advocacy groups, which I think has even gotten stronger, it showed in 17-18, 43% felt comfortable going to those meetings and attended those meetings. 43% as opposed to 18% statewide and only 24% nationwide. So we're doing really well in that area, I think. We still have room to grow, of course, but that's so much better than the others in the state at this point. Those who have voted, looks like we have, we match what the NCI information is at 37%, which is a great thing. We still have a lot of room to grow there as well. So we can go on to the next section, which is safety. 2 more sections, guys. Okay. One place where the person feels scared, and you see here VMRC is pretty high in that area. 40% say that there's at least one place where they feel afraid or scared, as opposed to 19% statewide and 19% nationwide. So I'm not sure what's going on there. George, I don't know if you guys got an inkling of that at all, but it's it seems like a pretty high percentage comparatively.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know of anything else to add to that, but I'm curious to see what this next cycle will look like and changes there as well too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We probably need to alert ourselves to some of these areas and really take a close look at that when the next cycle comes through.
I would agree.
So second to that, they said, has someone to go to for help if they ever feel scared? And 92% said yes, they do. They feel like they have someone to go to, that's a good thing. So our next section, last section, is our language and cultural competence. Staff at home and day programs speak preferred language. 95% say yes, that happens in their life, which is good compared to the statewide. There are staff at person's job who speak the preferred language. It's a little lower, 84 versus 94%. Staff at the day program who speak their preferred language, looks pretty even, 94 versus 96%. Those who got a copy of their IPP in the preferred language, 94% of VMRC, which is a little higher than the statewide average. We do try to get that done. And I think it's gotten even at a better pace since 17-18, truthfully. And then staff support person in a way that is respectful to their culture. We're a little bit lower than the statewide average, which was 93% here and 96% statewide. Like I said, this is 17-18 information, but it still is, I feel like, good information for us to be able to look through and start some planning. So are there any questions about all of this information? George would be happy to answer anything. Right, George?
I'll do my best. But sure, I'm open for questions if I can answer any. And just to go back to what I was saying earlier, our hope is that sooner than later we will have this information that's more user-friendly, so it's not in such a big format, that it's readily available, kind of at a check-in, like instantly. as we go through this next cycle here for this IPS. And so I do have a feeling these numbers are going to look very different given our current climate and the way the world has changed. I think there's going to be a lot of good. The self-advocacy component, you guys always rock in that area. And so keep up the good work there. But yeah, if there's any questions I can take back to our QA lead, or I can answer myself, I'm happy to do that today.
Thanks, George. We really appreciate it. Okay, the second thing we're going to do is review the performance contract. We only have 15 or so minutes. But it was a good thing we sent this out ahead of time so everybody could take a look at it. And this has been sent out several different methods. I also sent it out to our internal managers for them to take a look at it. I'd like for all of our staff to take a look at it and see if there are any changes they think should be made. A lot has happened over the last year. And so what I'm thinking, and I've even gotten some outside notes just from us putting it in the health advisory. I've gotten some emails sent to me telling me it's some ideas that others have. And so I've kind of put those in writing for myself, and I can go through those, but we'll just go through the performance contract quickly and show you the changes. So as we go through each section, if you have anything that you're interested in seeing a change or you think should be revised, if you could put that in the chat, and then we will print all of those out and take your input into consideration. The first section we're going to look at, and this is something we do every year, goals for the regional center when it comes to some mandated measures that DDS gives us. So the first measure is the number and percent of regional center caseload in developmental centers. And as you push for many years that consumers be moved out of state facilities and institutions and into the community. So that is our measure and our activities that these are the things we worked on last year, the activities the regional center will employ to achieve the outcome. And I'll just mention the things that we feel need to be changed this year. And if you have others, if you would please put those in the chat, I would appreciate it. And if you have any comments, let me know. Number one, let's see, the Paulson community, that's completed now. At this time last year, it wasn't. So it's been completed. We have our first 7 consumers who've moved in, and we anticipate filling all of those beds by the end of the year. So we can change that, number 1. Number 3, all we want to do is change that to ongoing CPP meetings. Number 4, the maintaining after-hours response system. We want to indicate that we provided all vendors and staff with descriptions of the after-hour service, utilization, and the access numbers. So that was completed, so we can add that in. And then if we go down to number 16, so we're not finding any changes until we get to 16. And that's utilize comprehensive assessments to identify consumers' readiness. We just want to indicate that we have completed 15 comprehensive assessments during the last year to assist with community placement efforts. So we will keep a running total of those, and so we'll add that into number 16. And 17, last year we mentioned that we wanted to maintain less than 14 VMRC consumers in DCs. We have reduced down to a population of 9 at this point. So we will change that number there as well. So if you go to the next section, number and percent of minors residing with families. This is a goal to try to keep children with their families, which we're all in favor of. And let's see what we've got here. Number 6. It has been suggested that we add personal assistance. So we'll have respite daycare and personal assistance. Number 7, it's been suggested that we include the fact that we need to develop ILS resources to provide services to minors, because right now our 16 and 17-year-olds, we're not able to provide the service because we don't have a vendor willing to provide service to a minor. So that's something we want to work on. Number 10, I just wanted to go over that one because we were going to promote the expansion of the program, the SIB shops, to 14 to 18-year-olds. And FRN was, of course, holding the SIB shops, and we haven't had much opportunity to work on that. So I don't know if we've had any movement as far as that age group wanting to be involved in SIB shops, but we haven't worked on that much. So I think we need to keep that in there, but I'm not sure of the status. And then 13, we think we should add that the services are being offered remotely or virtually during the COVID-19 pandemic. And if you guys feel like we need to incorporate something else with COVID in this plan, we can do that. If you have any input, please let me know, because I'm sure we'll still be dealing with this during the next calendar year, starting in January. So on to 19. That is assisting consumers and families when transitioning to the self-determination program. The thought there was that we would add that monthly orientations are being offered, and also that there will be an awareness campaign of the actual program. So if there's anything else you'd like for us to add to that, please let us know. And we can add that to pretty much all of these measures about the self-determination program. The next area is number and percent of adults residing in independent living. And of course, our goal is for adults to live in their own home if at all possible, and if that's what they choose. So number 7 there, the change might be, and otherwise, you know, we're looking at keeping the plan as it is. It says maintain informational network to discuss best practices for ILS, SLS providers. We've had a tough time keeping that network going because people are so busy, or maybe a lack of interest. So we're thinking maybe after the pandemic is over, we'll be able to start that back up again. But as of right now, we haven't had much luck over this past year with that. And then 13, the self-determination program, we would add that same verbiage that we talked about earlier, and anything else that you guys feel like might be appropriate, please let us know. The next section, D, is number and percent of adults residing in supported living. And thus for those consumers requiring some support in their homes. Again, number 2, we would take out continue regular supported living network meetings until we know for sure that we have attendees for that. And we would like to wait until after COVID-19 is over. And then if you go to 10, number 10, well, actually what we want to do there is add, just prior to 10, add a number to encourage completion of the health passport information. So after incorporate emergency preparedness, we would add encourage completion of health passport. And then on 11, we would add to number 11, the monthly orientation and awareness campaign. Going on to E, the number and percent of adults residing in adult family home. This is a sought after model that kind of replicates a family home. So what we'd like to do there is add in another number to encourage completion of the health passport information. And then also to number 7, add in the monthly orientations and awareness campaign. And then F, number of adults residing in family homes, and that's the home of their parent or guardian. That's for those wanting to remain in the family home, of course. And the services and supports we will try to accomplish. Go down to number, no, it's not a number, we're going to add a number for the health passport completion. And the other thing we were thinking was at the end of 14, number 14, add in include advanced healthcare / end of life planning in the IPP goals. It's awaiting approval from the Consumer Services Committee right now. So as soon as that would be approved, we would add that to our IPP process. And then again, we would add in the monthly orientations for self-determination and the awareness campaign. Something else in that area that we're considering, we want to start orientations for those coming out of intake and being provided new services. They're newly found eligible for services. We want orientations for the families for that. So I think that would probably be a good thing to add in as well. And then G, let's see what time it is. I'm getting close, huh? This is the number of minors living in facilities for those that have the need for care in a facility. What we are thinking there is number 6, we would change that to scheduled individualized meetings with the parents and advocates. And then number 8, the continuance of the agency residential screening committee. Of course, that would continue, but we might add in there that they currently meet twice a week and more often if needed to provide immediate placement options as needed, especially due to COVID-19. H, for those who choose to reside in a board and care and have those needs for adults, we're looking at maybe changing 2 and 3 and merging those, where we say that we would continue the existing policy of vendoring residential facilities serving 6 or fewer persons and encouraging development of 4-bed homes. So merge those 2 is what we were thinking. And then I, that is dealing with reducing our disparities. And these were a couple that were mandated by the reducing disparities and employment measures were added in a couple of years ago by DDS. So we've been doing this for a few years now. I would like to add right after number 2, and make this the new number 3 would be VMRC Cultural Specialist and Cultural and Linguistic Committee was formed to address needs and to identify trends. So that's something new we have started that will also involve community involvement as well. So wanted to add that as one of our activities. And then also we needed to change in J the number and percent of individuals receiving only case management services by age and ethnicity, which was a measure that DDS gave us. What we want to do there is add to number 2, we've got a few changes as far as names of community groups that we're involved with. So we just want to change those names. Fuerzas Unidas is no longer in existence, and they've changed their name to Special Needs Connection, and then La Familia Disparity Funds Program would also be added there. So those would be the 2 additions to the cultural disparity measure. And then the rest are all employment. And I don't have any changes to that area at this point. Looks like most things have stayed the same, but I'm still waiting on a couple of internal ideas on that as well. But because of COVID, there hasn't been a whole lot of movement in that area. So as you can tell from most of the plan, that we weren't able to do some of the things strictly because of the pandemic. So we're thinking that we could just continue a lot of those same activities for next year with the addition of just a few. So that's kind of everything in a nutshell when it comes to the performance contract. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to bring up, or do you have any ideas about what we've talked about today? Any feedback, input?
That performance contract, just so you guys know, I told you where the NCI report was available on public disclosures. This is available on our website under transparency and accountability and performance contract. And I'll copy and paste that into the chat.
Did we get any ideas in our chat? I haven't had a chance to look. Oh, good. We did get some. Okay. So any other things you'd like to discuss today about the performance contract?
No.
If you have any ideas that come to mind, if you have a chance to review the contract a little bit more in depth, feel free to email me, and then we've got a group of people who are discussing this, and then we'll be reviewing again and again and providing it to Consumer Services and to the board as well. So we've got several different opportunities to add to it, but I wanted to get everyone's input today. Anything else? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming today. George, thank you so much for being involved in the conversation. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I'll be back at 5.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thanks everybody. Take care.
Okay.
Thanks, Cindy.
Bye-bye.